Welcome to 360 Conversations Black History Month audio takeover. It's October, and here in the UK, that means it's Black History Month. And I have decided to collaborate with some formidable women to honour Black women in history and consider what their legacy means in terms of wellness today. I believe that it is our duty to honour the women that have gone before, paved the way and provided sturdy shoulders to lift us higher by exploring how we can alchemize their grit into grace. Today, I have a beautiful audio from Lanice Brothers where she honours none other than Billie Holiday. And I'd like to share that Lanice is one of the major catalysts, or was one of the people that had a big influence on me starting my beautiful 360 journey, where I've been able to connect with such wonderful women, and I'm now stepping into supporting women with skills that I've had sitting inside me just waiting to pop out. Lanice is a registered nutritionist, yoga teacher, and women's health and hormone coach. She specializes in menstruation. She works with women who want to get in control of sugar cravings, mood swings, hormonal acne, bloating, and headaches, as well as increase their energy levels. Lanice has helped many women with hormonal issues ranging from PMS, PCOS, fibroids, endometriosis, heavy, painful, missing and irregular periods, postnatal depletion, perimenopause and menopause. When I was feeling really stuck and feeling like, oh my goodness, life feels like some kind of Ferris wheel in Groundhog Day, I had a session with Lanice. In that one session, Lanice was able to help me unpick and unpack medical issues that the medical model was unable to shed any clarity on. Lanice shared such wisdom that I was really able to understand how all of my symptoms, emotional and physical, were linked. And during my session with her, she said, "Tamu, you have the right to feel energized." That has stayed with me forever. Lanice, I want to thank you for giving me such a wonderful gift in that one session we had, and I cannot wait to work with you further. Now, without further ado, I'm going to hand you guys over to the beautiful audio where Lanice shares some really beautiful and sometimes beautifully tragic information about the wonder that was Billie Holiday, and touches on the radical act of living on your own terms and living out loud. I hope you enjoy this as much as I did. As I listened, I felt like I was expanding on a cellular level.
I'm Lanice Brothers. I'm a registered nutritionist, women's health, hormone, and menstrual cycle coach, and a yoga teacher. I set up my practice, Eat, Love, Move, to help women with hormonal issues improve their menstrual cycle, to help educate them to understand their bodies better, advocate for better health care, and to heal. Let's talk about the American jazz singer, Billie Holiday. I first discovered Billie Holiday, or Lady Day to most of us, when I was 12 years old on a snowy school trip to Quebec City in Canada. On a free afternoon, we were allowed to wander the old part of the city, and I stumbled into a record store with my friends. I had $10 burning a hole in my pocket, and I was determined to buy something. My eyes glanced around the shop and lighted on a Billie Holiday CD. I knew her name, and I was definitely intrigued by the gardenia in her hair, so I bought the CD, feeling excited and happy about my new discovery. That night, when I finally had some time to myself, I slipped the CD into my Discman, and Lady's voice broke me open and transported me to another world. I was too young to understand the depth of emotion in her voice, but I definitely knew at the time that this was a woman who had lived. Lady Day was a complex woman, like so many of us are. She was born in 1915 in Philadelphia and had a troubled childhood, shuffling between the care of her teenage mother and family friends. Her mother did her best, But after moving to Harlem, her mother eventually worked in a brothel where Billie became a victim of sexual trafficking at age 13 and was sent to a workhouse. Billie eventually started singing in Harlem nightclubs with famous jazz musicians like Duke Ellington, Benny Goodman, Lester Young, Count Basie, and Artie Shaw. Throughout her career, Billie was often the only woman in the room and usually the only Black woman, which meant constantly having to deal with discriminatory laws and the norms of the time, separating Blacks from whites. So how can I talk about Billie Holiday without talking about the impact of generational trauma, of institutional racism that hamstrings the chances of so many talented Black men and women? Think of her singing arguably her most famous song, Strange Fruit. In her voice, we hear the trauma of not only lived experience, but also of the ancestors as she sings, Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. All of her songs, even those with lighter subject matter, have a deep emotional weight and layers of feeling that 12-year-old me could barely comprehend. Even today, there are certain songs in her catalog that give me pause. I listen to songs like Good Morning Heartache, You Better Go Now, and Don't Explain, and I wonder about the life she led, first as a jazz pioneer with the most beguiling voice, and later in life as a woman struggling with heartbreak, abuse, money and alcohol issues, and a crippling heroin addiction. Billie Holiday is a woman that has been defined by her struggle, her drug use, her times in prison, spousal abuse, and the money that was swindled from her. But if we look at her life in the context of the time that she was in, she was so much more than that. She was a fighter. And as Angela Davis, the famous writer, says, she was more than a passive product of the contingencies of her life. She lived her life on her own terms, which given the time was a radical act. How often do you live life on your own terms? How often do you live out loud? I take hope from Billie Holiday's lived experience, not her struggle. Despite everything that she went through, both personal and within the institutions of the time, she lived a life that was her own. She kept going. She persevered, no matter what was thrown at her. We listen to her voice. We listen to the intrigue, the emotional stories that she tells, and we can all take something from it.
Thank you for listening to 360 Conversations. I appreciate you sharing your precious time with my guest and I hope you found the episode useful. I'd be so grateful if you could rate and review my podcast. Like an increasing number of our digital experiences, the algorithms rule. Your feedback will assist me reaching a wider audience, and I'd really love to have more women being privy to or joining these conversations. The feedback I get following each episode is beautiful and tells me more women could benefit. As always, I'd love to keep the conversation going. You can join me by commenting on the podcast show notes on my website or via social media at Live360. I hope to engage with you soon. Podcast produced by me, Tamu Thomas. Podcast music produced by James Anderson. Take care.